Success. It's the one thing almost everyone wants, but very few ever truly grasp. We chase it. We run ourselves into the ground for it. But what if the real problem is the chase itself? Here's a truth most people never hear. Success is not something you pursue. It's something you attract by the person you become. Let that sink in. Because the harder you chase, the more it seems to slip away. It's like running after your own shadow. It moves every time you do. But imagine this. What if you didn't have to chase anymore? What if success started finding you? That's not a fantasy. That's a formula. And it all starts with one question. Who are you becoming? You see, most people are stuck in the loop of do more, hustle harder. They believe if they just work longer hours, read one more book, burn one more midnight candle, they'll finally catch success. But here's what they're missing. Success doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to identity. It's not just about effort. It's about alignment. It's about becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts success through character, habits, and vision. Let's break that down. 1. It starts with your character. Success gravitates to certain traits: discipline, integrity, generosity, resilience. It seeks out people who add value, who leave every room, every business, every person better than they found it. 2. It requires crystal clear goals. You can't attract what you can't define. Vague intentions lead to vague outcomes. So here's a tough question. If I stopped you right now and asked, what's your goal for the next 5 years? Could you answer clearly, confidently, and passionately? If not, success won't stick around long. Because clarity breeds action, and action breeds results. A wandering mind leads to a wandering life. Success doesn't come to those who drift, it comes to those who decide. And that decision carries a price: time, effort, discipline, sacrifice. But the moment you decide with conviction, the universe starts to align. Because when you know where you're going, the obstacles don't disappear, but they make more sense. They stop being barriers and start becoming training grounds. The hard truth? It's not supposed to be easy. Look, this isn't about wishful thinking or motivational fluff. This path will test you. You'll feel tired, discouraged, maybe even broken. But here's the secret. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. That's why the person you become matters more than any temporary win. Because success is not a sprint. It's not a lucky break. It's a transformation. Let me tell you a story. I was 25, broke, lost, with barely a dime to my name, no plan, no vision, no hope. And then I met a man who would change everything. Mr. Schoof. He didn't offer me money. He didn't offer me an opportunity. He offered me a challenge. He said, Jim, if you want things to change, you have to change. If you want things to get better, you have to get better. That hit me like a freight train. Because I realized I'd been waiting on the world to fix itself. But the world wasn't broken. I was. And that meant I could fix it, starting with myself. That day, everything changed. I stopped chasing change. I became change. I picked up books. I listened to seminars. I hunted down mentors. I studied like my life depended on it, because it did. And slowly but surely, the world started responding differently. Why? Because I was different. Your external world reflects your internal one. When I changed, the opportunities changed. When I changed, the people around me changed. When I changed, everything changed. That's not magic. That's mindset. That's personal evolution. So, let's talk about something practical. Let's talk about habits. You can dream all day long, but if your daily habits don't back it up, you're building sandcastles in a storm. You want financial freedom, but your habit is impulse spending. You want health, but your habit is fast food and late-night TV. You want success, but your habits are average. Let me be real with you. That's not ambition, that's self-deception. Successful people don't just want success. They live it, breathe it, practice it daily. They read, they plan, they take action, they track their progress, they wake up early, they stay focused, they stay consistent. And consistency, that's the hidden ingredient nobody talks about. It's not glamorous, it's not fun, but it's the difference between dreaming and doing. It's easy to be fired up for a week, but can you stay focused for a year, 5 years? Because that's where the winners are made. It's not about going hard one time, it's about going steady every time. But here's something even deeper. Your habits come from your mindset. And your mindset, that's the soil where your entire life grows. You can't plant the seeds of greatness in poisoned ground. If your thoughts are soaked in fear, self-doubt, or I'm not good enough, how can you expect to grow anything strong? Belief is where it begins. You don't need blind optimism. You need belief with backbone. You need to believe that your life can change, because if you don't, no one else will. Sure, belief alone won't change the world, but without it, nothing even begins. So let me ask you, what are you feeding your mind? Are you absorbing fear, gossip, negativity? Or are you filling your mind with wisdom, inspiration, and truth? Because your mind is a mirror. It reflects what it's shown. Show it greatness, and it starts to believe in greatness. And once your mind believes, you start moving. You take action. You build habits. You become.
If this message touched your heart, take a moment to like the video. It helps more than you know. Share it with someone who might need this today. And if you want more content that feeds your soul, subscribe and stay with us. Your journey matters, and you're not alone.
So, we ended with the mind, your inner battlefield. But here's something even more powerful than your thoughts alone. The people shaping those thoughts. Let's be honest, your environment is louder than your intentions. You can have big dreams, a vision board, and affirmations taped to your mirror, but if you're surrounded by people who laugh at ambition, you'll start shrinking just to fit in. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. You've heard it before, but have you felt it? The slow erosion of your fire because no one around you is burning? Look, this isn't about cutting people off with cold arrogance, but it is about protecting your momentum. Not everyone is meant to go with you. Not everyone can handle the weight of growth. Some people want the old version of you to stay alive because it makes them feel comfortable. But if you want to attract success, you've got to surround yourself with people who pull you forward, not drag you back. You need friends who challenge you, mentors who stretch your thinking, peers who push you higher, people who want more, not just for themselves, but for you. That's the circle that cultivates greatness. When I met Mr. Schoaf, he introduced me to a whole new kind of crowd, people who read, who built businesses, who gave generously, who lived with purpose. And just by being around them, I started thinking differently, dreaming bigger, speaking with clarity, acting with intention. Your standards will rise to match your circle. That's not optional. That's inevitable. So let me ask you, who's influencing your thinking right now? If you're serious about attracting success, take inventory, not with judgment, but with purpose. Are the people in your life building you, or are they slowly breaking you? This isn't just about friendships. It's about who you study. Who are your role models? Who are you listening to, reading about, following? Because success leaves clues, patterns, habits, strategies. You don't have to figure it all out from scratch. You just need to pay attention. Find someone who's done what you want to do and learn everything you can from them. That's not copying. That's wisdom. That's efficiency. Success doesn't come to the person who deserves it. It comes to the person who prepares for it. And that preparation includes your influences, your inputs, and your impact. So let's shift gears now. Let's talk about value. Success is a magnet to value. Here's a mindset shift that can change your life. Success is not about what you get, it's about what you give. Success flows to people who solve problems, who show up, who serve. You want to attract more success? Start asking, how can I add more value today? Whether it's your job, your business, your relationships, your worth in any system is determined by the value you bring to that system. Can you make things better? Can you fix what's broken? Can you improve the lives of others? The more problems you solve, the more doors will open. And here's the catch. The size of the problems you solve determines the size of the success you attract. Small problems, small returns. Big problems, big impact, big rewards. Think about the biggest companies in the world. They don't just sell stuff, they solve massive problems at scale. Apply that same principle to your life. You don't need a billion-dollar solution. You just need to shift your focus from taking to contributing. Because when your life becomes a river of value, success has no choice but to flow to you. But it's not just about external value. The people who attract lasting success also cultivate internal value. Character, integrity, ethics. Because if people can't trust you, they won't invest in you. Not their time, not their energy, not their opportunities. And trust is built in the small, unseen moments. Here's something Mr. Schoaf once told me that I've never forgotten. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. Let that echo for a second. If you cut corners in one area of your life, it starts to bleed into everything else. If you lie to others, you'll eventually lie to yourself. If you show up late to small commitments, you'll miss out on big ones. So if you want to become a person who attracts success, start with the little things. Do you keep your promises? Do you follow through even when no one's watching? Do you do your best even when you could get away with doing less? Because every decision builds your reputation, and your reputation becomes your magnet. Success doesn't always knock on your door loudly. Sometimes it whispers, watching from the shadows, waiting to see if you're the kind of person worth showing up for. Now let's talk about a game changer, discipline. Discipline is the bridge between intention and impact. You can dream all day long, but if you can't get yourself to act when it's inconvenient, you'll never see those dreams materialize. Discipline is what makes success inevitable. Because motivation fades, excitement wears off, but discipline, it shows up even when you don't want to. Every time you wake up early when you could sleep in, you're building discipline. Every time you finish the task when you'd rather quit, you're reinforcing a standard. Discipline is what transforms goals into reality. And it's not about being perfect. It's about being committed, even when it's uncomfortable. Here's the truth most won't tell you. Discipline is self-respect in action. When you choose discipline, you're saying, I'm worth it, my dreams are worth it, my future matters more than my feelings in this moment. That self-respect becomes a signal, and success listens. People are drawn to those who honor their word, who do the hard things consistently, who don't need to be watched to do what's right. That's the kind of person success is dying to meet. And the best part? Discipline is a skill, a muscle. It grows every time you use it. You're not born with it, you build it. So start small. Wake up 15 minutes earlier. Put your phone down during deep work. Commit to a short workout, even if it's just 10 minutes. Each act of discipline is a vote for the person you want to become. And with enough votes, that version of you becomes reality.
So now you're building discipline. You're making changes. You're becoming the person success is drawn to. But here's where most people get stuck. They expect it to happen overnight. They plant a seed today and want a tree tomorrow. And when it doesn't show up fast enough, they get frustrated, discouraged, and quit. That's not how this works. Success is not an event. It's a process. And that process requires something most people don't have anymore: patience. We live in a world of instant gratification. One-click orders, same-day delivery, instant likes, real-time notifications. And because of that, we've forgotten what it means to wait, to trust, to endure. But here's the truth. Real success, the kind that lasts, that's never instant. It's built day by day, brick by brick, decision by decision. Think about it like planting a seed. You water it, you nurture it. You show up every day, even when nothing seems to be happening. And eventually, it sprouts. But if you get frustrated and dig up the seed every other day to see if it's growing, you kill it. That's what most people do with their dreams. They don't give them time to grow. They start a business and quit when it doesn't explode in 6 months. They start a fitness journey and give up when the scale doesn't move in a week. They try to build better habits, but walk away the moment it feels repetitive. That's not growth. That's impatience disguised as ambition. Patience is not about doing nothing. It's about trusting the process while you keep doing the work. It's showing up with discipline, even when the results aren't obvious. It's knowing that the compound effect is real. Small actions, repeated over time, create massive outcomes. And if you want to attract success, you've got to trust in that compound effect. You've got to believe that every book you read, every rep you do, every moment you resist temptation, every dollar you save, every skill you build, it's all stacking. It's all adding up. It's all moving you forward, even when it doesn't look like it. That's patience. But patience alone isn't enough. You need something else right alongside it: persistence. If patience is your willingness to wait, persistence is your refusal to quit. And make no mistake, life will give you 1,000 reasons to quit. You'll face setbacks, disappointments, failures, rejections, detours, delays. You'll question yourself. You'll question the path. You'll question whether it's all worth it. And here's what I'll tell you. Those moments, those are the defining moments. That's when the average person checks out. That's when they walk away and say, I guess it wasn't meant for me. But the ones who attract success, they don't walk away. They double down. They don't just try. They commit. They fall and they rise. They lose and they learn. They get knocked down and they stand up again, stronger, wiser, more determined than ever. Because they understand that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the training ground for it. So ask yourself, how badly do you want it? Are you willing to persist when it's hard? Are you willing to fail publicly, to keep showing up when no one's clapping, to move forward without applause? Because success doesn't go to the person who never fails. It goes to the person who never stops. Persistence is what carries you through when motivation dies, when the honeymoon phase wears off, when you're no longer excited, just exhausted, when everything in you says, take a break, and your purpose whispers, keep going. Now here's where people get it wrong. They confuse persistence with stubbornness. They think if they just keep doing the same thing over and over, eventually it'll work. But real persistence is not about banging your head against the same wall. It's about staying committed to the goal while being flexible with your approach. It's about adapting, adjusting, pivoting when needed. Sometimes the plan has to change. That's not failure. That's wisdom. If a strategy isn't working, change it, but never change the goal. If the path gets blocked, find another route, but never lose sight of where you're going. That's smart persistence. Back when I was starting out in business, I had an idea of how I thought everything should go. I thought if I worked hard, stayed focused, followed my plan to the letter, things would fall into place. But reality had other plans. There were setbacks, Lost money, failed launches, doors slammed in my face. And for a while, I kept trying the same approach, over and over, until I realized something. Working harder doesn't always mean working smarter. So I did what most people are afraid to do. I changed. I tried new strategies. I learned new skills. I listened more. I adjusted faster. And that's when everything started to shift. Not because I was more talented, but because I was more adaptable. And that's the secret. The people who attract success aren't just persistent. They're adaptable. They stay grounded in their purpose, but open in their process. Because life doesn't care about your plans. It will throw curveballs, roadblocks, and unexpected detours. The question is, will you freeze or will you flex? Will you resist change or will you evolve? That's what separates the stagnant from the successful. Adaptability is not weakness, it's intelligence. It's strength under pressure. It's movement with intention. And the more adaptable you are, the more doors you'll find opening in front of you. Now listen, this isn't about bouncing around aimlessly, trying 100 different things, hoping one sticks. This is about moving with purpose, holding on to your vision with a grip of steel, but adjusting your steps with the grace of a dancer. That's the art of persistence, and it's the only way to survive the long game of success. Because make no mistake, this is a long game. The people who win are the ones who don't stop playing. They might slow down, they might stumble, but they keep getting back up. They don't let failure define them. They use it. They learn from it. Because they know every no brings them closer to a yes. Every setback is a setup for a stronger comeback. Every scar is proof they're still in the fight. So if you're in the trenches right now, if life is testing you, if nothing's going the way you planned, good. That means you're being forged, strengthened, prepared. And if you don't give up, if you stay patient, stay persistent, stay adaptable, then success isn't just possible, it's inevitable.
If this message touched your heart, take a moment to like the video. It helps more than you know. Share it with someone who might need this today. And if you want more content that feeds your soul, subscribe and stay with us. Your journey matters, and you're not alone.
So far, you've heard about patience, about persistence, about adapting when life doesn't go your way. But there's one more piece most people underestimate: your attitude. It's invisible, internal, but it's the force that colors everything you touch. Your attitude is the lens through which you view the world, and depending on that lens, the same exact situation can look like an opportunity or a dead end. A person with a positive attitude walks into a room and sees possibility. A person with a negative attitude walks into the same room and sees problems. Same room, but different outcomes. So let me ask you, what's your lens? Because here's the truth. A positive attitude is like a magnet. It draws in energy, momentum, people, and opportunity. A negative attitude? It repels all of that. It shuts doors. It suffocates progress. It turns your future into a rerun of your past. And here's the kicker. Your attitude is not based on your circumstances. It's based on your choices. You don't need life to be perfect to have a positive attitude. In fact, the people who carry the strongest, most unshakable attitudes, they're usually the ones who've walked through hell and refused to come out bitter. That's what makes attitude so powerful. It's not just about what happens to you. It's about how you respond. There will be times when everything goes wrong. The deal falls through, the health scare hits, the plan collapses. You feel like you're losing ground. And that's when your attitude becomes your anchor or your downfall. Because a negative attitude says, this always happens to me. I can't catch a break. But a positive attitude says, there's something here for me. This won't break me, it'll build me.
Now, I'm not talking about toxic positivity. I'm not asking you to fake a smile when you're in pain or pretend everything's okay when it's not. What I'm talking about is resilient positivity. The kind of outlook that faces the storm but keeps moving forward anyway. It's grounded in reality but refuses to be ruled by fear. And cultivating that mindset, that starts with focus. Whatever you focus on grows. If you focus on what's missing, you'll feel lack. If you focus on what's broken, you'll feel hopeless. But if you focus on what's working, even the smallest things, you start to build momentum. So how do you train your focus? You practice gratitude. Gratitude is not just a feel-good emotion, it's a strategy. It rewires your brain to search for the good, even when life is loud with problems. It's the seed of abundance, the beginning of joy, and one of the fastest ways to shift your attitude. Start small. Every morning, write down 3 things you're grateful for. It could be your health, your family, the roof over your head, the breath in your lungs. And as you build that muscle, you'll start to see everything differently. Gratitude creates clarity, and from that clarity comes courage. Because when you're no longer obsessed with what's missing, you free yourself to act. You stop waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect moment. You take action, even when it's hard. And that action, backed by gratitude and belief, begins to attract success on its own. Now let's go even deeper. Let's talk about one of the most empowering, misunderstood truths of all: personal responsibility. If you want to attract success, you have to take 100% responsibility for your life. Not 98%, not unless they hurt me or unless the economy tanks, all of it. No excuses, no blaming, no playing the victim. Because the moment you start pointing fingers, you give away your power. You hand over control of your life to people, to situations, to things you cannot influence. And that is the opposite of power. That is paralysis. Taking responsibility is not about blaming yourself for everything. It's about owning your response to everything. You can't always control what happens, but you can always control what happens next. You can control your attitude. You can control your effort. You can control your growth. And that's where your power begins. Early in my journey, when nothing was working, I had every reason to blame the world. I was broke, discouraged, and convinced that external circumstances were to blame. Until one day, I looked in the mirror and asked, if I'm the problem, then I can also be the solution. It wasn't a moment of self-hate. It was a moment of liberation. Because if I was the problem, then I could also be the solution. I didn't have to wait for better conditions. I could become better. And once I took full ownership of my life, my results changed. Not overnight, but undeniably. That's the shift you have to make if you want to attract lasting success. You have to stop waiting for someone else to save you. You have to stop hoping life gets easier and start becoming someone who gets stronger. Now let me be clear. Taking responsibility doesn't mean going it alone. You still need support. You need mentors. You need a circle that lifts you higher. But it's your job to find them. Your job to build the right relationships. Your job to position yourself in the right environments. Responsibility isn't about isolation. It's about ownership. It's about saying, if something's going to happen, it starts with me. So if your circle is draining you, change it. If your habits are betraying you, fix them. If your mindset is limiting you, retrain it. You don't have to wait to be chosen. You can choose yourself. You can decide right now that you're done blaming, done waiting, done giving away your power. You can choose to live a life by design, not by default. And once you do, that's when the real shift happens. You don't chase success anymore. You become someone success is looking for.
Now that we've touched on personal responsibility, let's revisit one of the most underrated success principles of all time: your environment. You can have the clearest goals, the strongest work ethic, the most bulletproof mindset. But if your environment is toxic, if the people you're around, the spaces you occupy, the energy you absorb are draining your drive, then success becomes a constant uphill battle. You cannot plant a seed in poisoned soil and expect it to grow. Think about it. If you're trying to fly, but everyone around you is afraid of heights, they'll clip your wings before you ever leave the ground. And they won't always do it maliciously. Sometimes they'll do it with a smile. Be realistic. Don't aim too high. Why can't you just be satisfied? Not because they hate you, but because your growth threatens their comfort. So, if you're serious about becoming someone who attracts success, you have to protect your environment like your future depends on it, because it does. Now, protecting your environment doesn't mean becoming a recluse. It doesn't mean cutting everyone out of your life. It means becoming intentional. It means asking, are the people around me speaking life into my vision or draining it with doubt? Do the conversations I engage in fuel me or empty me? Are the places I spend time helping me grow or keeping me stuck? Let's take it further. Think about your daily spaces, your home, your workspace, your digital world, your phone, your feeds, your inbox. Are those spaces filled with distractions, complaints, negativity? Or are they built for clarity, focus, and peace? You can't become extraordinary in an environment that celebrates average. So, build a space that reflects who you're becoming, not who you've been. Now, let's go back to relationships. There are people in your life right now who are either multiplying your momentum or constantly interrupting it. And sometimes the hardest part of growth is realizing that not everyone is meant to stay. Some people were there for a season, a chapter, a lesson, but they can't come with you to the next level. And letting go of that doesn't make you cold, it makes you committed. Because every relationship is a force. It either pulls you up or drags you down. There is no neutral. Now, I know what you might be thinking. What if the people holding me back are family, friends I've had for years? Here's the truth. You don't always have to cut people off, but you do have to reassign access. You don't have to hate them, you don't have to judge them, but you do have to protect your energy. You have to decide who gets front row seats in your life and who belongs in the balcony. The closer someone is to your mind, your time, your attention, the more influence they have on your destiny. So, be ruthless about who gets that power. It's not just about protecting your time, it's about protecting your becoming. Because becoming someone who attracts success isn't just about strategy, it's about identity. And that identity is shaped by who you surround yourself with. Now, let's flip it. If you want to attract success, don't just filter who influences you, become someone worth being around. Raise your standards so high that people feel inspired just being in your presence. Speak life, bring energy. Be the kind of person who makes others sit up straighter, think bigger, move sharper, because the world mirrors what you project. You want better people? Be a better person. You want stronger connections? Offer stronger value. Success doesn't come to the person who waits for a great environment. It comes to the person who creates it. And that brings us to another powerful principle, contribution. You want to attract more into your life? Start by giving more. This might sound backwards in a culture obsessed with getting more money, more followers, more fame, but the most successful people in the world aren't focused on what they can get. They're obsessed with what they can give. They are givers of value, problem solvers, uplifters, because they understand one timeless truth. The more value you bring, the more valuable you become. And value always attracts. So stop asking, what can I get from this? Start asking, what can I contribute to this?
Whether it's your workplace, your business, your relationships, your community, the more you focus on contribution, the more success you'll draw in. Because when you solve problems, people remember. When you help without keeping score, opportunities chase you. When you show up fully and consistently, doors open without you knocking. And don't wait for the perfect way to contribute. You don't need to change the world in one big moment. Start small. Show up early. Encourage someone who's down. Over-deliver on your promises. Create something useful. Share something meaningful. Because every time you add value, you build invisible equity. And that equity compounds. It's the hidden currency of success. Now let's talk about the internal side of value, because contribution isn't just what you do, it's who you are. Character, integrity, honesty, discipline, consistency. These aren't just moral checkboxes. They are success magnets. People are drawn to those who operate with honor. Why? Because trust is rare. And when people trust you, they promote you, support you, follow you, partner with you. And here's the thing about integrity. It's tested in the small, silent moments. When no one's watching. When you could cut a corner and no one would notice. When you could take a shortcut and still win. That's when your character is revealed. And the people who attract the highest levels of success, they pass those tests. Not because they have to, but because it's who they've chosen to be. So don't just focus on doing things that look successful. Focus on becoming someone who is successful, even before the results show up. That's the kind of person who attracts success without chasing it. Not because they're lucky, but because they've earned it. They've built it. They've become it. And now success follows them everywhere they go.
If this message touched your heart, take a moment to like the video. It helps more than you know. Share it with someone who might need this today. And if you want more content that feeds your soul, subscribe and stay with us. Your journey matters, and you're not alone.
By now, you're starting to understand that success isn't something you chase. It's something you invite by becoming a version of yourself that demands it. But there's one more element that ties all this together. Your standards. Your standards are the invisible boundaries that define what you tolerate from others, from your environment, and most importantly, from yourself. If you tolerate chaos, you'll live in chaos. If you tolerate excuses, you'll make more of them. If you tolerate mediocrity, don't be surprised when excellence avoids you. Here's the truth. You don't get what you want. You get what you accept. So take a hard look at your life. What are you currently accepting? Are you accepting broken routines, broken focus, broken relationships? Are you accepting a version of yourself that keeps playing small, waiting for permission, compromising on dreams? If so, you found the ceiling. And it wasn't placed there by the world. It was placed there by you. Success is not a reward for the lucky. It's a response to your standards. You have to raise them. Raise your standard of effort. Raise your standard of discipline. Raise your standard of how you show up even when no one's watching. Because here's what most people forget. Your life is always listening. It hears your declarations, it sees your patterns, and it responds accordingly. So when you raise your standard, you raise your energy. You raise your environment. You raise the quality of people and opportunities that flow into your life. Because success doesn't rise to meet you. You have to rise to meet it. Now let's talk about something that sits underneath those standards. Something even more foundational. Self-respect. A lot of people talk about confidence, motivation, self-love, but very few talk about self-respect. And yet, that's the anchor. You want to know why some people consistently show up on time, stay disciplined, follow through, and hold the line even when no one is watching?
it's not just because they're motivated. It's because they respect themselves too much to break their own word. Self-respect says, even if no one notices, I do, and that's enough. Self-respect isn't loud. It doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't scream for attention. It just quietly builds habits that make success inevitable. It keeps promises, even when they're inconvenient. It stays aligned, even when the world's out of balance. And when you operate from that kind of self-respect, you start to attract people who live the same way. Because like attracts like. And suddenly, you're surrounded by people who hold you accountable, not because they're controlling, but because they expect greatness from you. That's what high-level environments do. They remind you of who you are. They raise the cost of slacking off. They make average feel uncomfortable, and that's exactly what you need. Because mediocrity has a very seductive way of making you feel okay while you're slowly fading into irrelevance. It doesn't hurt, it doesn't scream, it just whispers. Relax, settle, don't push too hard. Until one day you look back and realize that a year has passed and you haven't moved. Not forward, not deeper, just still. So let me say this clearly. Comfort is a slow killer. It convinces you to trade your potential for convenience. It tells you you've done enough when deep down you know there's more in you. But the people who attract lasting success, real, meaningful success, they don't settle. Not because they're greedy, not because they're never satisfied, but because they know that growth is life. And the moment they stop growing, they start dying inside. So they keep moving, keep evolving, keep raising the bar, not to prove anything to the world, but to stay in alignment with the person they've decided to become. And that's a decision you have to make too, every single day. Because if you don't make that decision, the world will make it for you. It will tell you who you are. It will define your limits. It will hand you a script and expect you to play along. But if you want to attract success, you have to tear up that script. You have to decide, deliberately, consistently, and unapologetically, who you are, what you're about, and what you refuse to tolerate. And then live like that decision matters. Now let's shift to one more critical ingredient in this entire journey: momentum. You see, success doesn't just require action, it requires continued action, sustained effort, repeated motion. And momentum is what carries you when motivation dies. Momentum is built through motion, not perfect motion, just forward motion. Every time you follow through, momentum builds. Every time you do what you said you do, despite how you feel, momentum builds. Every time you resist the urge to hit snooze, skip the gym, waste the day, momentum builds. And momentum is a compounding force. It starts slow, almost invisible, but the more you keep going, the more it starts to pull you forward, until one day it feels like success is chasing you. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you got stronger, sharper, aligned. That's the reward for those who stay consistent long enough. They stop pushing the boulder uphill because now the boulder is rolling on its own. So whatever you're building right now, keep going. Even if it feels small, even if no one sees it, even if the results aren't here yet. Because success is rarely loud in the beginning. It whispers, it waits, it watches. But when it sees someone showing up again and again, refusing to give up, it starts to move in your direction. That's when everything shifts. And not because of luck, but because of loyalty to your own growth. You stay loyal to the process, and now the results are staying loyal to you.
We've talked about habits, about mindset, about patience, persistence, responsibility, and self-respect.
We've peeled back every layer of what it truly takes to attract success. But now it's time to go even deeper, beneath the strategies, beneath the motivation, into the core of it all. The question that echoes long after the goals are met, the money's made, the titles are earned: who did you become? Because success isn't just about achievement, it's about transformation. It's about the person you evolve into as you climb, the strength you develop through struggle, the wisdom you earn through failure, the depth you gain through sacrifice. And that person, the one you become, that's the real prize. You see, life isn't handing out rewards to the most talented or the most lucky. It's responding to the people who show up every single day as the version of themselves they refuse to compromise. Not perfect, but authentic, resilient, rooted in purpose. So stop asking, how can I get more? Start asking, how can I become more? Because success doesn't just want your goals, it wants your growth. And that growth, it will cost you. It will cost you your comfort zone, your excuses, your bad habits, your need for instant gratification, your attachment to approval. But what you get in return is freedom. Not just financial freedom, emotional freedom, mental freedom, soul-level freedom. The kind of freedom that lets you walk into any room, face any challenge, and say, I know who I am. I know what I'm building. I know why I'm here. And when you reach that place, when your life is rooted in intention, built on character, aligned with vision, you don't have to chase success anymore. It starts showing up in the form of opportunities, connections, breakthroughs, peace. Because when you stop running from who you are and start owning who you're meant to be, life gets in formation around you. But this isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily discipline. Every morning, you wake up with a choice: to go back to sleep on your potential or rise into it, to repeat the same cycles or rewrite the script, to live a life of reaction or live by design. So here's the final challenge. Start becoming today the person you wish to be 5 years from now. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait to feel ready. Start becoming that person now. How would that version of you think? How would they walk into the room? How would they treat people? How would they spend their time? What habits would they master? What excuses would they never allow? Now act like it's already true, because the truth is, it can be. You're not waiting for permission. You're not a prisoner of the past. You're not defined by who you've been. You are being shaped right now by the decisions you're making in this very moment. And one decision can change your entire trajectory. And change mine. Years ago, when I was broke, confused, and lost, I didn't have all the answers. But I made one decision: to grow, to become, to take responsibility for my life, and to never settle again. And that decision, it didn't pay off in a week, or a month, or even a year. But it did pay off. And it will for you too, if you stay the course. So wherever you are today, whether you're just starting out or deep in the journey, know this: you are not stuck, you are not finished, and you are not alone. Because there is a version of you, stronger, wiser, bolder, on the other side of every fear, every failure, every excuse, waiting for you to step forward and claim it. So take the step, make the change, raise the standard, become the person that attracts success not through chance, but through choice. Because in the end, it's not about what you accomplish. It's about who you become in the process. And that person, the one forged in discipline, fired by purpose, grounded in character, that person doesn't just succeed. They inspire. They lead. They serve. They live a life that speaks louder than any resume, louder than any trophy, louder than any applause. A life that matters. A life that leaves a mark. A life that cannot be ignored. So go build that life. Not someday, today.